everybody. This is Olenjolai&Nekinyi from the beautiful, fantastic country, the United Republic of Tanzania. I would like to welcome you into this fantastic channel that's called the Tanzania Online A-Level Secondary Schools, Olenjolai&Nekinyi, where we used to upload or teach students, teaching students by using different concepts, okay, different techniques. Okay, so it means that you will enjoy the beauty of advanced physics, advanced chemistry, advanced mathematics, and even basic applied mathematics. But later on, I think that within a short time, we can even teach students how to, we call it technical English, or yes, because you know that some of the students who study in ordinary or in normal schools, not private schools or government schools, they lack something like, they lack some techniques in language or in spoken language, in written language. They are good in written, but in spoken and having confidence in listening, it's a little bit problem because I'm from those environment, I understand. So I would like also to welcome you into this fantastic video, and today that I will be teaching you the departments which after serving you is advanced physics, and then the subject is advanced physics, and the main topic is mechanics. So I would like to welcome you into this main topic of physics of the Form 5, which is called mechanics. And we have classical mechanics and even classical mechanics. We are learning classical mechanics, fluid mechanics, properties of matter, and including also measurement, okay? Then the topic of the day is gravitations, and then this class is dedicated to the pre-Form 5 of United Republic of Tanzania and neighbors countries, in African continents, and the Form 5 students. It depends. Maybe in your nation you call it class 12 or class 11 or class 13, regardless of the name, right? So don't get confused. The material, what we are studying in United Republic of Tanzania is what other students in the world are also studying. So this is lecture, okay? This is not like a small C, it's a capital C. Lecture or period, so this is lecture or period or session 5. And today I'll be teaching about planetary and satellite motion. So planetary motions and satellite motion, right? But before I start this, I would like to link the previous lectures or previous sessions and today's lecture or session. So in lecture 3, basically we learned a lot of things, but the main concepts is Newton's universal gravitational law. So that's what we've been learning. We learned also about Kepler's, how to use the consistency between Newton's universal gravitational law. We learned also a lot of things. I think that, this is, yes, so yes, lecture 02, okay, 03, 01, okay, fine. So we learned about mass of the sun, right? Mass of the sun. How we can find the mass of the sun, mass of the S, density of the S, etc., etc., etc. But again, in lecture, so let me go to lecture or session 4. I taught you on problem solving, right? Problem solving, and I left the homework for you. I believe that you did it well, because it was just like a review of what I've taught you. So problem solving, right? Problem solving on Newton's universal gravitational laws. So that's what we've been solving. Sometimes also we use we solved also some problems for Kepler's said law, right? Said laws, etc., 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 etc. So in case that you didn't review those or you didn't go through these contents, the videos are in these channels, so you can go back and review those materials before you come to lecture 5 or period or session 5. In case that you feel from your heart that you want to offer freewheeling Thanksgiving offering, you can do through this mobile number, and then the mobile number, and in case that you want to do transactions by using the bank, go to the descriptions below of this video, then get too much details. So okay, I'm ready right now to go into the subject of the day, the planetary and the satellite motions, and I would like to start with introductory question, which is like this. So the question is define, or what is define define the planet. What is a planet? Right? What is a planet? Or in some of the books we say that, or it can be asked that, what is a planet? So that's the question that we have in this course. There are various definitions of the planet, which all of them are explaining planets from the different perspective. But let me share with you a few of them that I found. Okay? A planet, say a planet. A planet is a large object. A planet is a large object, right? So a planet is a large object that orbits or revolves. When you say that orbit, because orbit right now is still a vocabulary for you, so we say that it revolves a star. So this is the one of the definitions that orbits or revolves for the star. Let me give you the other definition, then I'll explain them. Okay, I'll explain them simultaneously. Or some of the references define that a planet is the heavenly. Is a heavenly body. Is a heavenly body that orbits. So this is the heavenly body that orbits the sun. When they say orbits, mean revolve the sun, right? The sun and the light we find, and the light we find in the planet. Okay, and the light we find in the planet is a reflection. Okay, so in the planet is a reflex. Is a reflex of what? Reflex of sunlight. Reflect of sunlight. So that's the fact about concepts. Or some of the references also they define the planet in this way, that a planet is a large, right? Is a large bodies, or is a large body, right? A large body that revolves. Okay, that revolves the sun. The sun in solar system. Revolve the sun in solar system. Okay? So that's the second definition of the planet. So we say that we have three definitions which I shared. First of all, a planet is a large object. It's not a small object like maybe an atom. It's a large object. So a planet is a large object that orbits or revolves what? A star. With this definition, it is true because we know that from the concepts of the geography we learned during the O-level studies. We used to say that we used to study something we call the solar system. So in case of the solar system, you mean that the center of the solar system is the sun. And we used to draw 9 planets. I do remember that, including the Pluto. However, that nowadays many astronomers used to say that there are 80 planets. But during our age, when we are studying the O-level studies, especially the Form 1 studies, we have been told that there are 9 planets in the world, right? There are 9 planets in the world. So the sun was the center of the solar system. But when we define the sun again, the sun is a star. So that's why we say that planets are the large object, or the large object that orbits or revolves for a star. Revolve for always all the planets revolves around the sun. And the sun is what? Is a star. Understand that? In second definitions, a planet is a heavenly, not earthly, not worldly, is a heavenly body that orbits the sun. And the light and the light we find in the planet, for example, in case in the planet that we call it the Earth, where we live as human beings, we used to find the white light during the daytime. And these white lights are 7 spectrums, 7 bands of the light spectrum. Okay? So then the light we find in the Earth as a planet is come from the reflections of the sun's light. So that's the second definition. So it gives us, first of all, to tell us where do we find planets. These are the heavenly bodies. And then again to tell us what happens, what do these planets do? The orbits or revolve to the sun. And thirdly, tell us the light we can find in the planet, whether it is Neptune or Uranus or Mercury or Jupiter, is a reflex of the sunlight. And then the third definitions, we say that a planet is a large body that revolves the sun in the solar system. So all the 3 definitions are important and are also relevant. So you have to make sure that you understand them. Again, we can mention some of the planets that which have been discovered in the world. Okay, so we say that according to the astronomers, when you say astronomers, example NASA, this is one of a group of scientists, astronomists. Okay, they say that there are 8 known planets, excluding Pluto. So let us mention these 8 planets. The first one is called the Mercury. So you know it, and just to remind you, because you know that. Venus, the second one is Venus. The second one is called the Earth. The first one is called Mars. The fifth one is called the Jupiter. You remember in lecture 4, we did this problem or solving. We solved these problems for the issues of the distance. The sixth one is called the Saturn. This is the largest planet. The second largest planet is this one, but it has a ring. And also the seventh one, we call it Uranus. The eighth is called what? Neptune. And then the ninth is during our age that we have been learning so level. The ninth has been called the Pluto. So those are the 8 known planets, right? 8 known planets. Okay, so that's it's a little bit introduction to the planets. In these modules, we are not too much focusing on the planets. These modules, we are too much focusing on the satellites. But you know, we should have a big picture of the planet first, and then we'll narrow ourselves into the satellites. Okay. So then that's it's a little bit a brief introduction about planets. You can go further about those planets and so forth. But just the intentions right now is the satellite motion. So then we have another question that asking us, what is the satellite? What is a satellite? Or define satellite. What do you understand by the term satellite? Can you take fractions of maybe 30 seconds to think about? Satellites, this is not a new term. You listen radios, you watch televisions, you watch some videos online, you read some references or some materials online. What is satellite? You heard this word about satellites. for instance, that if you have the smartphone, we used to have a good example for applications of the satellite, which you call GPS, GPRS, GPS or GPS. I forget about GPRS, GPS, Global Positioning what? We call GPS system, right? So the global positioning system, that is the satellite, because it is used to determine the locations or the place where you are, but it's in latitude, longitude, and altitude. Okay, so you used to take, first maybe taxi driving, so and so forth. So you used to call those, you used those software and then to ask you for the, maybe for the boda or maybe for the bajaj or for the taxi, you see. And then he or she can use the GPS. It means that the guidance, where you are by the moment when you are asking for those services. So what is a satellite? When I'm giving you a little bit introductions because about this, I'm giving you some time to think. What is satellite? Can you try? How can you define the satellites? Right? How? Because it's not a new term for you, but we want just to advance what you have been known. Okay, so thank you. I think that you have got several definitions in your mind, but let us let us define this way. Okay. So you say that satellite, according to astronomers, say that satellite, we have our form 3 definition for you. Satellite is a moon. This is natural satellite or a planet or a machine. Right? Machine. Planet or machine that orbits. That orbits. Remember the words orbits means that revolves. Revolve. Revolve what? The sun. No, revolve. That orbits a planet or a star. That revolves. This is this S. That revolve the S or the sun or star. That revolve a sun or a planet, not the sun, sorry. That revolve a planet or the star or the star or the star. So we say that satellite is the moon. Let me give you all the 3 definitions, then I'll explain each of the definitions for you, and you might choose one of them and keep it for the rest of your life in physics or in advanced physics. In case that you expect to be a pilot or maybe aircraft engineer, the subject gravitation is very important, my beloved student. Or we say that a satellite, this is according to NASA. This is NASA. I've defined this, the term satellite like this one. Or some references define satellite in general. The satellite is a heavenly body is a heavenly body which revolves or orbits around the planet, orbits or revolves around the planet, in a close and stable orbit. In a close and stable orbit. Okay? In a close and stable orbit. Or some of the references defines also a planet, especially NASA again. In one of their documents, they say that is an object. The satellite is an object that has been placed. I think that this is it's an object that moves around a larger object. It's an objective. So sorry. Excuse me. It's an object. It's an object that moves around a larger object. That moves around a larger object. Satellite is a moon or a planet. So satellite is a moon or what? Or a planet. Or a machine. So when you say a moon, you have to pay attention on this NASA definition because they are specialized the authorities for the astronomy concept. Okay, so satellite is a moon, one, or a planet, two, or a machine that orbits or revolves the planet or the star. Okay, again, some other references, they define the satellite. The satellite is a heavenly body. We find it in heaven, okay, above the Earth's surface, which revolve or orbit around the planet, right, in a close and stable orbit. In the next lecture, I will be teaching you a lot about orbit because we have two types of the orbit. We have free orbit and we have parking orbit. And it's a great subject for the advanced physics, okay? So that's the second, the third definition. So in the heavenly body, where do we find the satellites? We don't find the satellites underneath of the earth. This is the heavenly body, right? Which revolves or orbit around the planet. In a close and stable orbit. Or is an object that moves around a larger object. So that's how we define the satellite. So it's an object that moves around a larger object. So before we classify them, so we classify these two types of the satellites, or we classify the types of the satellites, we say that let me give you some examples of satellites in general. Examples of satellites. Example of satellites are, the first example of satellite is the moon. Say the moon. The moon, we used to see it during night. This is the example of the satellite. And also a second example of satellite, we have communication satellites. Communications satellites. And also we have GPS satellites. GPS, global positioning system satellites. I will teach you in the next part. And also we have navigation satellites. These are the satellites. Navigation satellites help in navigation process. Okay? So those are some examples of what of the satellites. Because I'll be talking to the examples. I've been speaking the examples of planets. I mentioned eight examples of planets. And as now, before I go further into the subject of the satellite's motion, I would like to mention to you some examples. So the first one, the moon that revolves around the Earth, and the communication satellites, we have them, for example, in cellular phones and whatever, for the internet and so forth. Then GPS satellites, then we have navigation satellites, and then we have some other satellites. For example, we have geostationary satellites, we have LEO satellites, we have HEO satellites, we have GEO satellites, you see. So you have many satellites in the world. Okay. So those are the examples. Again, the next is something. Do you have any questions at that stage? In case that you have any questions concerned about what I've already told you, don't hesitate yourself to ask it in the comment sections. And then other students will answer your questions, or even myself, I can answer your questions. Don't remain with your questions, please, because the main objective of this YouTube channel is just to teach you and to let you understand the complex stuff by using a little amount of energy. Okay, so you say there are, let us focus on the next subtopics, on the next concept that we call the types of satellites. We have defined satellites in general, but again, in order to understand the satellite motions, it's better for us to know the types of the satellite first and to categorize. So we say that according to astronomers, according to the astronomers, or we call them sometimes space flight, right? There are two main types of of satellites. Main types of satellites that are: one, we have satellites, we call them natural satellite. Natural, say it with me, natural satellite. And the second, we have another types of satellites, we call them artificial satellites. Artificial satellites. So you have natural satellites and artificial satellites. So let us start with the first types. The first type is what? Natural satellites. Say natural satellites. So natural satellites. And the basic question we have there, what is a natural satellite? What do you mean when you say that something is natural or satellite is natural? What is a natural satellite? So a natural satellite, you say that is a satellite from one definition, so if I'm not mistaken, we say that is a natural, is a type of satellite, so is a so you say that so this we say that he is a type of satellite, okay, that is created, right? That is created by God, right? And thence by God in heaven, in heavenly bodies, to revolve or to orbit sorting the planet, orbits the planet, in a close and stable orbit. If you join me right now, I'd like to welcome, this is Olenjolai&Nekinyi Single from United Republic of Tanzania, who is teaching you the advanced physics and the main topic of mechanics, and the subtopic that we are discussing is called the gravitation. And the subject of the day, or this is lecture 5 or session 5 or period 5, that's called the planetary and satellite motion. So, and hence now we are defining the meanings of natural satellites and stable. So it's just a continuation of that definition. Stable orbit. So it said that a natural satellite is the type of satellite created by God, right? In heavenly bodies. Heavenly bodies means that this is one of the components of the heaven bodies. Orbits or revolve the planet. Orbit or revolve the planet in a close and stable orbit. Orbit is the path followed by by the planet. I will teach you in the next lectures. The meanings of orbit, will have a clear study of orbit and having a bit of velocity and discussing a lot of things. But at this moment, it means that we say an orbit is a path followed by by the planet. It means that it's a path. Okay? So that's how we define the natural satellites, right? So we say that examples of these natural satellites, okay, examples are found almost how many? 3 examples. The example, we say that the Earth, the planet Earth, the planets where we live, the planet Earth, planet Earth has only one natural satellite, and this natural satellite that is called what? The moon. So natural satellite is called what? The moon. So the moon revolves the Earth, right? So that's why that we say that a natural satellite is created by God in heavenly bodies and revolve or orbit a planet in a close and stable orbit. So the meanings of having the word close, stable also is very important, because if you find a satellite that is shifting from its orbit, it's not a good results. So again, the planet, you have another, the first planet means that the first planet that the planet mass contain or have what contains 2 natural satellites. 2 natural satellites. Your homework is go and find what are the names of these natural satellites of the moon, of the Mars. Then again, the largest planet in the whole solar system, that is called the Jupiter, itself, it has how many satellites? How many natural satellites? It has 16. The largest planet, we mean what? Jupiter, Jupiter has 16 natural satellites revolving it. Satellites revolves it. Revolve. So all these revolve. Revolve the what? Revolve it. So that's how. So you said the largest planet in the solar system, that is called the Jupiter, has 16 natural satellites that revolve it. So now you have some examples of 40 of natural satellites. This subject is not focusing too much on the planet, and also this subject is not too much focused on the natural satellites, but this